So this has been on my mind for the past week, and I have been asking some people closer to my circle about this topic. Then it got to the point where I made a poll about it, and people said some pretty interesting things. The main Resident Evil characters such as Leon, Chris, Jill, and Claire, and I'll even throw Ada into this conversation, have evolved to the point where they feel like superheroes. And it felt like that in Resident Evil Death Island, and I'm not even including the other silly shit some of them have done, like the Boulder Punch for example. When you end up putting these characters into games, you'll most likely think they'll get out of whatever situation alive due to how they have evolved over the years. But for some people this has honestly gotten stale and probably want to see something different to the point as to where they don't feel as invincible as they often do. I practically have this feeling every time I play a game that includes them, and by no means it's not a terrible thing that they get away clean. This has probably crossed Capcom's mind but never wanted to take the risk due to how much backlash they could possibly receive for such a crazy decision. And that is killing off one of or multiple of the main characters in Resident Evil. Honestly, ever since I joined the Resident Evil community, this feels like the forbidden door in the fandom. It's something maybe a few people would want to talk about, but no one really wants it to happen. And don't get me wrong, if I wanted to choose, I wouldn't want it to happen. It totally contradicts the purpose of this video, so don't pretend I didn't say that. Alright, this is Logan after recording the video, and I just wanted to say this. I'm not trying to say to kill all of them, I just said the most realistic possibility for all of them, even though for some it was really hard to think about. I do end up repeating myself a lot in this video, and it was hard for me to come up with a title, so don't take this video the wrong way and enjoy, if you can. But a few days ago, I watched an anime, and one of the characters I really liked ended up dying later on around the series finale, and hit pretty hard and got me thinking to make this video. Hell, I played some games that I revisited and had to go through terrible deaths that I didn't want to happen at all. For example, Ghost's death in Modern Warfare 2 and Soap's death in Modern Warfare 3. I feel like when it comes to character deaths, it brings a whole different but unique perspective in the series, and it felt like that with me for Ethan. Now I don't know what the main intention was for that, because it could have been like, let's get his story wrapped up and kill him off so we can get the main characters back in action, or something like, with his death this could be a testing the waters kind of thing for us, but at the same time could be a massive risk. But I do want to ask you guys a really quick question, and no, this is not the end of the video yet whatsoever. What makes you come back to play Resident Evil games when new titles get announced? When it's not a remake, of course. Is it the gameplay? Is it the story? Is it the characters, the setting and atmosphere, or the enemies? Or something else outside of that? Let me know. For me, it was always and has been the characters, and honestly, I don't really mind who it specifically is. As much as I see Chris often with the new games, it gives me hope to see others. But if we are talking about character deaths, it's really hard to think about because if you're Capcom, how do you tackle it and how can you either make it shocking or how could you build it up? Capcom has teased us a lot with this stuff, like Ada in OG RE2, Jill in Resident Evil 5, Chris retiring in RE6. Speaking of RE6, there is a file in that game where Leon thought about ending it in Raccoon City, but kept pushing because of Sherry and Claire. And honestly, for Leon's state of mind right now, I still think it's the same for Vendetta. Ethan just died in RE8, and these characters are getting older. Well, the men, and not the women. That's a completely different discussion for another video. A lot of this can go and involve a little bit of a villain problem. None of them, except for maybe Alex Wesker, has even come close to pushing these characters to their absolute limit, just like how Albert Wesker did. We're excluding Ethan getting his heart ripped out, by the way, since this is about the main four. But to go back, if you were to kill off one of these characters, how would you do it and would it make sense? Would you build it up or would you make it happen out of nowhere? When it came to Ethan's death, you could sense it was the end for him. So now I want to dive into as many possibilities as to how these characters can die. Or maybe just one. I want to start with the one fans probably want gone the most, and that's Chris. During the later part of his career, we've seen many people sacrifice themselves to save him. Like Jill in the Lost in Nightmares DLC in RE5, Piers dying to save him in RE6, and recently Ethan in RE8. If he were to die, I think it should come down to an inevitable sacrifice, like a full circle kind of moment, to save someone, and I would choose Claire, as it would hit the most, and that's what an older brother would do to protect his little sister. It would give Chris a newfound love and would bring back a character trait of his that I feel like most of us have forgotten, as we are clouded by his team always dying on him. Hell Wolf Squad, your days might be numbered very soon. But that character trait is to protect who he loves the most, and who better than his little sister. But the thing is that most likely won't happen, and the answer to that is the RE8 DLC Shadows of Rose. 16 years later after the events of RE8, so this is in 2037, Chris is still alive and is probably gray as fuck. So possibilities of him dying are almost slim to none unless Capcom wants to retcon something, which at this state I wouldn't be surprised if they did. They've done that a lot with the remakes. they probably would do it again. Okay, again, Logan's back after the video recording. I decided to pair these two up because I feel like there is more to both of their stories. I feel like there should be more, but when it comes to the other characters, I have no idea what should come up for them after. Maybe I think their stories could be done or closer than expected than these two. That's what I'm trying to say. Now I want to pair these two up together, and it's Claire and Jill. The only way I can see them dying is if it's to develop or give more trauma to Chris, and I don't want to see that at all. With RE Death Island's release, it is confirmed that there will be more story for Jill in the near future, which most likely means it'll be RE9 and potentially other titles aside from that. Claire to me is a little bit of a wild card. Most people would choose her because she's the least valuable to most people out of the main four, and never was a main star in a number title game but Code Veronica, which should get remade if you want to become a fan of her, and is very key to the story of Resident Evil. It's just not many fans have played the game because, well, you know why. Also, I do feel like Claire has gotten the short end of the stick for a while, from being a side character to the main side character in Infinite Darkness, and got little moments in screen time in Death Island. How should she die is a weird thing to talk about other than maybe Alex Wesker killing her, but I just don't see it happening. If Alex is realistically going to kill anybody, it's probably going to be Barry due to how old he is, and he took Natalia Corda in as an adopted daughter. Alex then maybe gain full control and kill Barry inevitably, which could motivate Chris, Jill, and Claire in Resident Evil 9 to take down Alex. Natalia, as of right now, is in her very young 20s, and it's about to be around 9 years since the release of Revelations 2, and in the timeline it would either be just below or just above a decade. So to fall back on Claire, I don't see it happening. I remember a rumor talking about her dying in RE9. We'll see what happens, and if they want to give Chris more trauma, more power to Capcom, I guess. Now it's time to move on from those three and move on to a duo that we haven't seen in a very long time, timeline-wise of course, and we're going to start off with Ada. She kinda died already in RE2 but came back alive, which honestly one of the bigger mysteries will always be about how did she survive that fall and how did she not bleed out to death. It depends on which you either prefer as canon or not. In Resident Evil 6, she was teased as the main antagonist in the original launch trailer or whatever. No matter how weird I find Simmons' motive, she nearly died as well with Leon saving her and vice versa. Simmons overall was a real shitty villain, and one of those two dying from him would just be fucking terrible. So let's say if she died legitimately this time. Remember when I said in that RE6 file where Leon wanted to end it at Raccoon City? That feeling would probably be at its worst for him, and he might actually end up doing it, but that's not how I would want Leon to die. I told you guys about Claire, Jill, and Rebecca having this slow aging thing. Well, I'm just waiting for them to do it with Ada because it just feels inevitable at this point. There is a reason as to why I saved Leon for last, and that's ultimately because if there really is someone that will be killed off, I think it's going to be him. No matter how iconic he is, no matter how much he is my favorite video game character of all time, I can really see it happening from the way his life has always been. From losing his parents to crime, arriving to Raccoon City in the middle of a zombie outbreak, to thinking about ending it with a bullet in the head, getting blackmailed to join a government agency, and whatever dumb shit was going on with him in Vendetta, and always wanting a vacation. It would hurt, like it really would hurt, but at the same time I would understand. We wanted to get a happy ending, but for some reason this thought still creeps into my mind. Now you're asking how he would die. I really do think this is the only way to do it. I'd have him die and bleed out in Ada's arms, showing her affection for him and overall just screaming about Leon dying. It would bring so much shock, and I have the death to be out of nowhere with no build-up. The poster boy of Resident Evil dying would probably bring so much backlash for Capcom, and would probably have them be like, oh, we just fucked up extremely badly, but you can argue that with all of the main characters. I have no idea if Ethan's death could be a tease for another death in a future RE game. I just don't know. Is Resident Evil really Resident Evil without those characters? They've been through so much trauma throughout their lives, they may be damn near superheroes, but I want a villain that will push them to their breaking point, and I feel like we haven't gotten that since Albert Wesker. I know it's a lot to ask about this, but it's very bizarre to discuss. Maybe this villain may kill one of, or maybe a few people of the main four, or Ada, who knows, man. It brings a whole different perspective to the series. It would just feel so much deeper, and it would be like, oh my god, I can't believe that happened. Above all of this is the risk factor. How would fans react if any of what I said just ended up happening in a future game? Pissed off and not wanting to play any RE games could be a serious thing. Then again, they might just buy the next RE game. It's kind of like me if RE5 Remake happens, and this may eventually become a little bit of a job for me, but yeah, anyways. This was just all in my mind, and there's no confirmation whatsoever about this, as we don't even know what will happen for the next Resident Evil title. This could happen in RE9, RE10, 11, 12, Revelations 3 maybe. I don't know. It's all up in the air, of course. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like on it and hit the subscribe button for more Resident Evil content in the near future, and just let me know what your thoughts overall about this video, or even just the discussion about killing off a main character. As always, I will catch you guys in my next video. Peace out, and much love.